Hello, everybody. My name is Chris, and welcome back to Word Salad. It's been a while. I've been trying to get some equipment for making a better studio. I moved and just kind of got off track with making videos, but I am back in action. We are going to start on a series called Biblical Matchmaking. We're going to talk about several instances in the Bible of matchmaking and what the Bible does say about matchmaking, what the Bible doesn't say about matchmaking, and not so much the not so much the specifics on how to have a good relationship, but more the actual finding of a mate and the Bible's guidelines and wisdom on those things. So we're going to get started with the first one in the Bible, which is the story of Adam and Eve. So it says here, "And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him." So let's pause it right there. John Eldredge, I believe, he's of the Wild at Heart series, and wrote Wild at Heart, and is with the Ransomed Heart team. It is a really, really insightful speaker and really cool man of wisdom. And he said, "Isn't it interesting that all the things that God created, God said, it is good. And even when God made man, he said, it is very good. But then, this is the one thing, or the first thing God says is not good. In all of his perfect paradise creation, before the fall of man, there's nothing wrong with anything, but God says, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him." So if it's not good for man to be alone, then the solution God has here is, I will make a companion, I will make a helpmeet. This word is translated as helpmeet, and it is used only 21 times in the Bible. The majority of the times it is, you can see that David uses it a lot in the Psalms, and it is when he is crying out to God, "You will be a help, you will be an aid to me, you will be like my shield." So that is the idea of a help, someone who comes in a time of need, someone who defends from battle. But since this is before the fall, and there's nothing really to defend from, Adam is the ruler, and he's not afraid of animals, and he doesn't have anyone to war against him. He doesn't have any enemies. He has not run across the serpent's temptation yet. Nothing's wrong. So what is this word meaning? Helpmeet. What does that mean? If it doesn't mean an aid or a defense, then what does it mean? To me, it's not just the idea of someone helping him out, like God puts him in the garden that he creates east of Eden, and says, the garden he creates in the east, called Eden, and says, "This is your job. You are to maintain the garden, and I'm going to give you a little assistant, and that assistant's going to help you out." It's not that this word isn't that, but it's more deep than that. It is a close companion, a close helper, a close match to you, a very, very intimate friend and counselor. Really is more, to me, the meaning of that. It does not exclude the idea of just helping me out. It's like just iron my pants and help me out in the morning. It doesn't exclude that. Also, the man should be a help to his wife as well. I'm not saying, not being chauvinistic here. I don't believe that chauvinism is supported or established in the Bible. So the idea of a helpmeet, the idea of a helper or aid, it is a companion at a deep level, someone to help you with your to help be a companion and defend you really against the loneliness, of going through this life and going through this journey with you. It says, "And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to all the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field." So God didn't just do what we consider the obvious thing, man and woman go together. This is before the idea of a woman. This is before woman is brought into being. Now you might ask yourself, well, why did God bother bringing all these animals if God in his wisdom probably knew that they wouldn't be a match for him? Well, I think that comes to this part right here. It says, "But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him." So it is Adam who trying to relate to all these animals, finds that there is none. There's none. And that it is Adam, it's something that is good for Adam to realize and to recognize. There's not a single one of these animals that is like me. I'm not like them. They're not a good mate for me. They're not a good match for me. So how is that relevant to you? If you are a carnal person, it means you're more like a beast, more like an animal. So if you are trying to use carnal means to find your mate, find your match, if you're going to use carnal, fleshly matchmaking strategies and wisdoms, you're probably going to miss it, because that is not what you're created for. So to me, that represents God bringing these beasts to him is Adam realizing to himself, I'm not a beast. I am not like these creatures. They're not like me. So it also communicates to me. It says, but for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. So there's the person, the individual, not just the man, but also the woman. The person, the individual, who says, well, this is not a match for me, and it is really that person's right to determine, this is not a match for me. I do not see the match. I do not feel the match. It's not there. The connection's not there. And that is an individual's right and an individual's preference. So that's where, and we'll talk about this in a later video, but I don't really see anywhere in the Bible where it says that God predestines particular, like every person on the planet, God, before they were made, has an idea of who's going to be matched up with who, even before they're born and go through life. There's nothing in the Bible that communicates that concept, and I believe it is important to realize that that's not the case. It may be a very romantic idea, and God's not against romance, but look, that whole idea of you have a predestined person you're supposed to be with, that takes individual responsibility out of it. Like, let's say man A and woman A are predestined before birth to get together, but man and woman have free will. If this man goes and lives a sinful life and this woman lives a righteous life, and the two of them get married as God plans, and he continues to be sinful, then it is a deeply troubling thing to her, and he continues to be sinful, and then he goes to hell when he dies, and she goes to heaven when she dies, and their whole marriage and relationship on earth is very painful. So it is mankind, it is man, the individual, that can or cannot choose freely for themselves whether they will conduct themselves in a way to be a good spouse or not. We have that free will and responsibility. So I don't believe that God predestines individuals to go to be matched from prior to birth. It just really is not anywhere in the Bible. So, but for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And, get my picture back. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this now is bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. So it's Adam saying, okay, in comparison to all these animals, which are not a sufficient mate for me, they're not a sufficient aid for me, they're not a sufficient companion for me, here is woman, who is like me, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. And I'll just point out that it was at the fall of mankind that God cursed woman and said that you shall have your desire for him and he shall rule over you. So the idea of man having this rulership over woman is not a God-appointed good thing, but a curse that was given to woman in mankind's fallen nature. Man being the more brutish and physically strong and more dominating creature throughout history, having this dominance to woman, and woman having this subservience to him, as is in many cultures around the world. But that is communicated in the Bible as a curse that was placed as a result of the sin. And it is not the ideal, perfect state of the relationship between man and woman. The relationship between man and woman is a co-position of rulership, that he is captain, like you are the pilot, you are the captain, and she is your first mate. That is the message that is translated more to us in the New Testament, and it feels, spiritually speaking, right to us. It doesn't seem right when a woman has this nagging, bossing, attitude over her husband, and he is beat down and troubled. And the same vice versa, when a man beats down and dominates a woman, and she feels less important and deeply troubled by and burdened by this relationship. That is not the state of the relationship between man and woman prior to the fall of mankind. And it says here, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And it says here, they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. So the idea of this nakedness, of being exposed and not ashamed. I did a verse study just this week on this term ashamed from a different verse in the book of Proverbs. It's a very cool word. Let's say, for example, that you've got a child and mom and dad are not around, and he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing, and he's doing it with confidence, but then mom walks into the room, and like before mom walks into the room, he's doing that thing he shouldn't be doing, and he's not really ashamed of doing it. He doesn't have any fear of doing it. But then mom walks into the room, and bam, he is exposed and ashamed of what he is doing. Or another image that translates this idea of shame is two people are debating or arguing, and then someone says something that catches the person in and proves one of the people to be wrong. Or it's like, oh, you said such and such, and you said you did such and such, but you lied about that. And then the other person or they don't have a leg to stand on. They are shamed. They are put to shame. The way that Jesus would put to shame the Pharisees. The Pharisees coming to accuse him, and Jesus always turning it around on them, hitting them with wisdom they could not refute, and they couldn't say anything, and they were put to shame. So that's this idea of being ashamed. It's something about you is unjust, something about you is unrighteous, something about you is embarrassing, something about you is secret, and you don't want someone to see it because it's scary for people to see it, because they think that that you think that they will judge you for it. That's the idea of being ashamed. And it says here that they were both totally naked, him and his wife, and were not ashamed. I believe this is not just the physical nakedness, but is also the spiritual nakedness and the fullness of exposure of what is going on in the depths of your heart, your fears, your deepest desires, your concerns, the things that you wish that you could do, the things that you are struggling with, these things being exposed and plain to one another, that you may be of a help and an aid to one another and a deep connection to one another. That is the spiritual perfection of godly unity and godly mating. So to recap, it was not good that man should be alone. God made a provision. Mankind, man and woman, have a preference of who they can marry. Man and woman should want to be mating on a spiritual level and not at the animal level. The animal level, the carnal level, the convenience level, I want a spouse because that's just what you do. We get married and we have kids and we just kind of coast through life. And at one point we had sparks and flames, but that dies out, and now we're just kind of going through life together. That's not the same thing as having a companion. that kind of life is not something that fades away. It can have new freshness. It can have new life to it. It's not necessarily easy. It's deeply powerful, emotional, and spiritual, and it flows from God. And these concepts are what is being communicated to us just in this very brief series of verses right here. This narrative that is communicated to us in the book of Genesis. So there's more to come in this series. Godly matchmaking, what is and isn't in the Bible, the true principles of God's wisdom in terms of matchmaking. And I'm not sure how long the series is going to be, but we will see how long it goes, and we'll see when it tuckers out. Until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and share. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!